Hi everyone, you are listening to People Know Weight, the podcast for people. This is season 2, the all inclusive table. This is episode 16, and I'm your host, Tanya Sharma. Welcome to another new episode of this season. Please do follow us on your preferred mode of audio and video platform, and make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment. On that note, let's start today's episode. So, today I'm going to talk about my second big east to west journey, that is, from being a student in Assam to deciding to become a lawyer and eventually going to National Law University, Delhi, which became a life changing decision in my life. Now, here is the thing about law. At least when I was growing up, I wouldn't say that it was the dream profession, or at least for the people around me. My parents never expected me to do law. So I'm a first generation lawyer, and in India, it's things have changed now in different cities, but law isn't something that people usually prepare for. So in my case, when my parents figured out that I was actually good at academics or great at academics and I had scored very well in my school, the question was which stream she should go into. And if you are good in studies and if you have got high grades, which I did, everybody would expect you to pick up something like the medicine or go into the civil services. And my family was very, very keen for me to join the civil services in a way because they were like, we have a gap in the family. There is no one who has done civil services. It would be great if you did that. My father famously drew a chart at the time when I had to think about university enrollments with certain options. The options being, why don't you take medical and become a doctor? Or you take up commerce and become do an MBA, or you take humanities and you become a civil servant. Law was never in the picture. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how the Indian schooling system works, let me throw some light. So, we study until grade 10, and usually before you start at grade 1, you also have preschool. So, there is play school, if you may call it. Some people go to it nursery. There's lower kindergarten, there's upper kindergarten, and then you have standard 1 to 10. And until 10th grade, you are studying a whole variety of subjects. So you have a 360-degree view of the world because you're studying social sciences, science, maths, history, geography, everything. After 10th grade, we're required to elect a stream. And most of our streams, or most of the subjects are divided into 3 streams. There's the science stream, which has everything related to science, physics, chemistry, biology, maths. Then there's the commerce stream, which is everything related to commerce, business studies, accounts, economics. And then you have the humanities or the arts stream, which is everything related to humanities, political science, social science, geography. It used to be quite rigid, but over the years, the system has allowed for some flexibility. So you could be a science student, but also choose economics as a subject. And the same for humanities. You could be a humanities student, but also choose maths as a subject that you want to study. And the expectation is that if you've chosen science, you're going to apply for engineering colleges, medical colleges. If you've chosen arts, you're probably going to become a professor, or you're going to go into social sciences or do the civil services. And if you've chosen commerce, you're going to do something like a CA or an MBA to get into investment banking or so on. So those are the 3 schools of thought that you've got to sign up to after you cross your 10th grade. And clearing these entrance exams to the universities in India is really big. So the training for medical school and engineering schools in India starts sometimes even in grade 8. So you have grade 8 students studying to prepare for the entrance exams that they will give at the end of grade 12 because it's so competitive. seats are limited, students are so many, everyone wants to get in, and there are top universities. If you get into them, it's a make or break for your career. That's what people think. I don't agree with it because I think once you get into a university, there is another journey that you need to undertake, but I will come to it in a bit. So it's the first barrier or the first hurdle is to just get into a college or to get into a good university. Because if you get into a good university, then in many ways it is considered that your future is going to be bright, as somehow it is assumed that the best opportunities will automatically come to you. There is some truth to it because the kind of opportunities you have access to depends a lot based on the university you go to. So the kind of opportunities I had access to were only possible because of the university I landed in, which is National Law University, Delhi. I cannot imagine I would have had access to the kind of opportunities I did if I was not in the college that I was, and if it didn't have the kind of structure that it did, which allowed me to put myself in the best place to make use of the opportunities. Anyway, coming back to my story, clearly no appetite for law. So you can imagine the surprise of my parents and my extended family when one fine day I come up and I tell them, actually, I'm thinking of becoming a lawyer. The question was, why? And that's because in India, if you're studying well, you wouldn't be expected to choose law because there are two ways of doing law in India. You can sign up for an undergraduate law degree after doing your 12th grade, and that's a 5-year course. That's tricky to get in if you're aiming for the top colleges. Or you can do a 3-year law degree. That's after you do a graduation degree. So you need to clear your 12th, then you need to do a graduate degree, and then you can enroll for a 3-year law degree. And there is some flexibility in getting that law degree. It's not that difficult to get into a law school per se. So people assume that law is something that you can do it even if you don't have high grades. Someone like you who has high grades and who enjoys studying, why would you choose law? My friend had another take. Her mother was quite shocked because their response was, well, we do know a lawyer. He's our neighbor and he sits outside on the swing and often talks to himself. I'm not sure law is the right profession for Sanya. There's a lot of backlash within the family for choosing law just because of stereotypes that arranged for it, and also because nobody really knew what the profession entailed. People thought, are you really sure you want to get in because, like, do what, criminal law and open up your chamber? Isn't that difficult for women to do? I was like, yes, that's right, but apparently there is this whole range of opportunities that's available in law from the point of view of business, from the point of view of policy, everything else. And what was my source for this information? It was actually schools, my teachers and alumni of my schools who gave this information to me, who had heard it from someone else, or lawyers who had been to national law schools, and they told me what it was like to be in the national law school. And that is why I decided I am going to go there. Also because, and here is identity crisis. I didn't see myself fitting into any of the three streams quite rigidly. I ended up choosing commerce, but it was more because I knew I was not going to do science and I wasn't going to be allowed to do arts. And I did love knowing about the business or thinking about business in general. So I thought commerce made sense for me at that point. But I always had this thing where I wanted to represent someone, which I thought was attractive. I've always had a knack for debating when I was younger, which made some people think maybe she's making the right decision because lawyers need to argue quite a bit. But if I dig down deeply, then there was also a sense of if I can't have the white coat of the doctor because I'm not into science, maybe I can take the black coat and still be a fighter in some ways. And in many ways, that was a decision that didn't make sense to many people, but I thought it's a good mix there. You get to dip your hands into business a little bit. You also get an access to a tool that's quite powerful, that does allow you to, or give you the power to push for something that's noble in a way, and still allows you to have an outlet for business, and it captures your interest in many different aspects of your life. So, in summary, I was steadfast on becoming a lawyer, and I was clear that the guidance I received is right. So I managed to put my parents in touch with the people who had met me and who had spoken highly about law. And I did manage to brainwash them that law is the right opportunity for me. Of course, then came the question of preparing for the entrance exams, which was something new and I hadn't expected. So I started preparing for entrance examinations, and I wrote the entrance examinations. And I had only one shot because it was pretty clear to me that it was either this one shot to get into this law school business or whatever I had set my mind to, or I was going to pursue something completely different. I'm glad that that one shot worked out for me, and I ended up in National Law University. It wasn't the most straightforward entry, but I managed to get in, and I was very grateful. And now starts the journey. So from Assam, I'm suddenly now in Delhi. Now, people in Assam are very polite, and it is very common for people there to use this phrase, don't feel bad. So, whenever we say something and you want to address something that is a bit offensive, people in Assam are very sensitive about it. So, they would approach the conversation in a very sensitive manner. I want to discuss this with you, but please don't feel bad about it. This is what it means. And I was used to that kind of a sensitivity when growing up. In a way, it's quite similar to British politeness, where we won't really tell you what we think, but this is what it is. Or we try and not to raise an issue as if we can avoid it. And now I'm suddenly in Delhi, where everything is on your face. Everything is loud. Nobody really cares what you feel about something, but people just want to make a point. And it was different. Not just that, we go to a first class where I'm sitting amongst all these people, and I realize someone is from Rajasthan, someone is from Tamil Nadu, so many people are from Delhi, and not just Delhi, they're from elite Delhi schools. And you sit in these class, and the teacher comes, and you have all these subjects that I've never heard of. Yes, I've studied some of these during my entrance examinations, but the teacher starts asking these questions, and then there goes a person who knows the answer. Not just the answer, even the context to the answer. There's someone else who has already interned at a law school. There's someone else whose father is like a politician, or someone is the son of someone, and someone is the daughter of someone. And you sit there and you just think, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And how am I ever going to get through this? And it can be a huge challenge to get past that mental barrier, that there are people here who have had more exposure to law than me, who have better connections than me. What am I doing here? How am I going to get through this? I told my parents that I'm going to make something out of this decision, but this just seems impossible. And those challenges are real. Apart from that, there's also the challenge of integrating with a crowd who grew up in very, very different circumstances, with very different hobbies, with very different experiences. Will I be able to actually connect with them? Now, in my case, I was very privileged because I came from an English medium school. English was the language of instruction, so I didn't have those hurdles. But sometimes entrance examinations are also conducted in vernacular languages. So if you are coming from a place where your medium of instruction has been vernacular, that integration itself can pose a big challenge. So this whole concept that your life is easier once you get into a law school is not true, or into an engineering college for that sake, or medical college is not true. Because sustaining yourself through that college, through all these moments of doubt that I don't think this is going to be possible, or look at the people around me, or this seems challenging, I haven't done it, or the kind of activities that exist. But it is doable and it is crackable. And you find inspiration around you. To every example of a person feeling that this is too much, There is an example of someone who is showing up and is trying to upskill themselves and is trying to not let the exterior dominate their internal mind process or their thinking. And I've noticed that for all these people, there was one factor in common. They were very clear what they wanted out of law school. And I saw them as the happiest people, or the people who actually went on achieving what they truly wanted. Now, for example, if you have come into the law school with this intention that I want a good degree and I want to get out of law school and open my own chamber, very little things about law school are going to stress you out. You're not going to be stressed about academics. You're not going to be stressed about different activities because you are clear. What is it that you want? You want to understand the law. You want to get to know people. You want to make good friendships, make good connections, and you want to focus on creating that practice. As long as you're clear on that, there is very little that can bother you because nothing can really derail your progress because it's in your control. Problem starts when your hopes and aspirations are contingent on something external. Someone giving you an LLM admission, someone giving you a job. And jobs are a source of big stress among law students. And I know it because I sat for placements and I was in the recruitment committee, and I know how stressful these things can be for students. And to be honest, there is no escape from the stress. It's a topic that is bound to cause stress for students, for everyone. And I think what humanizes the struggle is constantly talking to people who are ahead of you because it helps you retain focus on what is it that you actually want and connecting with people who have been there before you and who have done that before you. Sometimes it's not possible, but it does require you to recenter yourself in a way and keep asking yourself question, what is it that I actually want? And if there are 100 different things and only 10 things match with what you want, what I found useful in law school was to let those 100 other things, like 90 other things, go and only focus on the 10 things that actually matter to me. Because that way you are saving energy. You're not dispersed yourself too thin, but you're doing things that are actually important for your growth and to take you where you really want to go. So I think having that approach and being okay to let some things go is important. It is also important to identify your own limitations and know that I come from so and so place, and this has affected my thinking in such and such manner. But not to internalize it, like I'm thinking this way because I'm coming from so and so place. That thought process is not me. It's something different which requires a little bit of extra information to create a new thought process. And suddenly that's helpful. So, say when you are in this classroom, or when I was in this classroom and I was surrounded by all these people who happen to have had more exposure than me, knew more people than me in the industry, uh, the thought process that I had to come up with, new thought process, was it's 5 years. If it's a 5 year course, it's not something that's going to determine my progress at the end of today's class or at the end of 2 months, at the end of 3 months. So I have to make sure that at the end of 5 years, I end up becoming a well rounded lawyer per the university's curriculum. Because that is same for everybody. That does not distinguish. Like when you sit for an examination, you're not writing about your connections, you're not writing about your exposure, you're writing about what you read in the class, in the books, and in the many articles. Nobody has control over that. You have control over it. So that is where my focus had to be. And that's what I did. So for 5 years, I maintained a very, very strong focus on academics because I realized that that was my only shot at shining through law school because that was the only thing that was in my control. The exams, the academics, and my own understanding of the subject. that is the thing that I needed to work on most, upskilling. And of course, letting myself be known and connecting with people wherever I could and get seizing the opportunities wherever I could. And I think that really, really helped me. Focusing on what was in my control and not being so bogged down. Because had I been bogged down, then I wouldn't have focused on academics. Because I would have thought that there's no point focusing on academics because I'm never really going to get there. And if I had thought like that, then I probably wouldn't have ended up landing the opportunities I did, including the chance to become an international lawyer, which is a big, big opportunity. It's something you could have only dreamt of. Like, that was not even on my cards when I was entering law school, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. So in summary, it was a tough decision to take for me as a student in Assam to come over to Delhi to pursue something that no one really knew about back home, and to promise them an end result that they had not really seen. But if I had not taken that decision, I wouldn't have reached where I reached, or I wouldn't have gotten the experience that I did. But it's not just about taking the decision. I think it's also about your mindset and developing a lot of compassion and a lot of hope within you and being your own best friend. And of course, finding like minded people. The other thing that really helped me in my university was being surrounded by the right group of friends who honestly cheered you on for your success. Everybody was quite passionate about what they wanted to be, and everybody was very happy for you in general. And I think having that right group of people who are supportive, who look after you, who are invested in your success, who are themselves super hardworking, because hardworking people inspire you to be hardworking and they push you out of your comfort zone, and who have had, in some way, similar experience as you because they understand you, you understand them. It's also important to hang out with people who come from certain different backgrounds because then you also get a different perspective and a different exposure. So it's important to have that varied circle. But it is definitely important to surround yourself with, have those close ties with people who inspire you to become a better version of yourself in the university and who push you towards your goals. That was the other thing that I felt was very useful for me in university. And I think I got lucky that I got surrounded by these people who wanted me to do good. I wanted them to do good. And that creates a very positive circle around you. So that, I think, really helped me make the best out of law school and to land the best opportunities in that were available to me at the time, about which I will talk in my next episode. But before we end this, time to read our quote for the day. Actually, I'm not just reading quotes, I'm actually reading paragraphs for you. So maybe our next paragraph or the book extract. And as you know, we've been discussing the book Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. And I'm excited about this particular extract. It's from this chapter called Fortune Favors the Bold. And it's on page 149, the extract that I'm reading. It is my experience that bold decisions give the best promise of success. General Erwin Rommel would write in one of his letters, but one must differentiate between strategic or tactical boldness and a military gamble. A bold operation is one in which success is not a certainty, but which in case of failure leaves one with sufficient forces in hand to cope with whatever situation may arise. A gamble, on the other hand, is an operation which can lead either to victory or to the complete destruction of one's force. Situations can arise where even a gamble may be justified, as for instance, when in the normal course of events, defeat is merely a matter of time, when the gaining of time is therefore pointless and the only chance lies in an operation of great risk. It was Rommel's tactical and strategic boldness on the battlefield that made him such a wily opponent in North Africa at the beginning of World War II. Still, we cannot avoid condemning his lack of boldness against Hitler before the war broke out. Indeed, it was a lack of courage by almost all the German generals many of whom found Hitler deranged and repugnant but could not bring themselves to break military protocol and challenge him as he hijacked their country. These were some of the bravest men in the world, men who had faced fire and death many times. Yet, in conference meetings, they fearfully fretted and hoped someone else would do something. Waiting, hoping, cowering, they were complicit in heinous crimes. We will never fully understand their wrestling, but inaction sealed their fate. In the end, all that was left to Romeo, having missed the moment where a little boldness would have gone a long way, was a gamble. But by 1944, the gamble was more justified. Defeat was merely a matter of time, so why not try? So he did. Fortune didn't quite favor the conspirators who tried to depose and kill Hitler in the July 20 plot, but history at least respects the attempt. A little boldness now is worth a lot more than death-defying courage later. The former needs a lot less of fortune's favor to succeed than the latter. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, has talked about how he doesn't do bet the company bets. Because he doesn't have to, it's complacency that puts you in a position to have to take huge risks. It's the company that, after years of ignoring the trends, finally has to change or die. It's when you're making up for earlier deficiencies that you have to gamble everything. Better, he says, to consistently make good bets every day. Calculated instead of careless. Incremental instead of incredibly dangerous. Do the hard thing now. Be steady and courageous today in everything that counts. You will have to trust that it's not as risky as you think, that you are not as alone as you think. There is something behind you on this, even if it doesn't feel that way. Fortune is here. Fate is smiling upon you, but she tires quickly. She will resent you if you make her wait. Better risk now than gamble later. In either case, boldly proceed. I think the one line that I want every student who goes into a university thinking that they don't fit in, or thinking that they're not meant to be here, or that they can't do this, is to know that you're not as alone as you think. Because there are people who have come before you, who have faced the exact same things as you have, but have gotten through. All you need to do is to connect with those people who have been there before you, done that before you, in the circumstances that you did it. To give you that hope and to make you feel you're not alone and that you can smile your way through it instead of stressing your way through it. On that note, I will leave you, but I will see you in our next episode where I will talk about my transition in law school and my transition to becoming an international lawyer. Stay tuned.